What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. If you want to see that daily Ravens content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Hit the notification bell as well if you want to get notified every single time I put a brand new video. Now, in this video today, it's going to be kind of the biggest thing from, I think, the Baltimore Ravens 53-man final roster, talking about the wide receiver position. It's the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, we're talking about wide receivers. I'm going to be talking about the fact that the Ravens kept 5 wide receivers on their 53-man roster, and whether or not Eric DeCosta made a big mistake in doing that, because the Ravens also kept 5 tight ends, including the weapon, Josh Oliver. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on this. Do you think Eric DeCosta messed up? What were your overall thoughts on the Ravens 53-man roster? I did an hour-long live stream, but, if you don't have an hour, to go back and watch that, see all those comments, let me know in the comment section down below. I'll try and reply to as many as possible, but overall, I was very surprised that the Ravens kept only 5 wide receivers. If you didn't know, the receivers that they have on the depth chart or on the 53-man roster are Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay, James Prochet, Tylan Wallace, Demarcus Robinson. There's no Mekhi Polk. There's no Shamar Bridges. There's no Benjamin Victor. There's no Raleigh Webb. And when you look at the Ravens receiving room, 3 of them have been having injuries all throughout the offseason. Prochet, Duvernay, and Tylan Wallace have been in and out of practice seemingly like every other day. You're like, okay, maybe they didn't like the wide receivers they have, but what if one of them is hurt for week 1? What if one of them is hurt for practice? They got nobody. They've got nobody. I wasn't very happy with that decision. Now, at the same time, there are going to be plenty of opportunities for them to potentially add players to the 53-man roster, adding a wide receiver, whether it's a guy that they cut or not. But I was very surprised because luckily it panned out because the Ravens ended up not having any players get claimed off waivers. So if they want to bring them back to practice squad and they want to come back, we can do that. And then if, we add certain players to IR or somebody gets hurt, we can add somebody back in. But at the same time, if we don't add any wide receivers, that's a big mistake because the receivers that we have, I'll say 3 of them are completely unproven. One is, I think Bateman has shown he can definitely play and he can definitely be a starting wide receiver. But, we are all expecting him to be a very solid number 1 wide receiver. He hasn't done that yet, but we're expecting it. But if it doesn't happen, and then Demarcus Robinson is the only other proven guy. We hope Duvernay can be solid. We hope Prochet can be good. We hope Tylan Wallace can maybe play. But it's really limiting the opportunities for success in that wide receiver room. The more chances you have, the better the odds that one of them pans out. That's why I liked having, Mekhi Polk and Shamar Bridges and all those players, battling it out for that spot because it was like, hey, if one of them ends up beating the others out, it shows that they have more potential. They have a higher chance of being that breakout player that the Ravens potentially need because we know they play their undrafted players. We know they do. That is like the biggest thing about the Baltimore Ravens. If you're an undrafted free agent, go to Baltimore. The best chance you have at becoming a starter, at becoming a roster member. And those guys, it's not like we went out there and it was like, none of them played well. Now, Shamar Bridges is hurt. He was injury waived, which is different from getting cut like the rest of the players were. If nobody claims him, then he ends up going, I believe, to the IR of the team that injury waived him. So I think he's officially on the IR. Maybe it'll take a little bit to kick in, but the Ravens own the rights to him, if he ends up getting healthy. But even with that, like, okay, we're keeping a guy that's maybe injured as like a stockpile wide receiver. I don't understand that. And to keep Josh Oliver, I understand the Ravens need 4 tight ends. But once we end up throwing Charlie Kohler on the IR, which we may have done already, I've been at work all day, but I haven't seen anything about the Ravens activating any wide receivers. So, for us to keep Oliver, and I love Josh Oliver, But Josh Oliver is really not going to be playing for the Ravens unless there's some, we don't know if Nick Boyle is going to be ready for the start of the season. If that's the case, Josh Oliver makes sense, but there has been no indication that Nick Boyle is going to be unable to start the season. I do know that the Ravens ended up cutting today or waiving Mr. Tyree Phillips, so that frees up a roster space. So maybe they use that for a wide receiver, but it looks like, the other players that, potential cut candidates that maybe the Ravens were looking for, a cut candidate to sign or a veteran to go after. Looks like Josh Gordon is visiting with the Tennessee Titans. I believe the Houston Texans claimed Tyler Johnson. And that brings us back to who are the free agents currently. T.Y. Hilton, Cole Beasley, Odell, who's going to be injured till at least November. The problem with the Ravens receiving core isn't way down the line. It's like right now. What are we doing week 1? So I do think it was a mistake. And unless the Ravens end up adding somebody, I'm not a fan of that decision. If they rock out with 5 wide receivers, that shows that they're not committed to the passing game, and that's going to hurt Lamar. If you don't give Lamar Jackson even any players to pass to, and don't tell me but he has tight ends. He's not throwing to Josh Oliver. He's not. He's tight end 5 on the depth chart. Charlie Kohler's hurt, so he's tight end 4. The Ravens don't use 4 tight end sets. So unless there's an injury, we're not seeing him. Whereas he would see potentially Shamar Bridges or Mekhi Polk in certain situations. Let me know in the comment section down below your thoughts on this whole situation. I'm not a fan. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think the Ravens need another wide receiver. We've been keeping 7, it seems like, in recent years, and we drop it down to 5. I don't know. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe for daily Ravens content, and I'll see all of you again tomorrow.